everybody else.
And we're live here at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil.
That would make me terrible, Troy.
And we're joined by the creator of Wolfcop. We have Lowell Dean here. It's very good to have you here.
Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
And another Wolfcop as well, which I see behind you.
Yes, the sequel. Can't forget that one.
Yeah, it's a very creative name for the sequel.
Yeah, it's something all right, but it's funny, so we had to go with it.
Yeah, no, I love it. So, like, how long was Wolfcop in like the works, or at least in your mind, before you started to actually film it?
Actually, of like anything I've ever developed, it was weirdly the fastest from idea to execution. I think I had the idea probably in like 2011, and by 2013 we were shooting it. So I wish most projects moved that fast, but no, it was an anomaly, and basically it was my life for like 5 years straight, was doing the movie and then the sequel.
Yeah. Was there anything that inspired Wolfcop?
A ton of stuff, you know. I mean, I think it's kind of a grab bag of, as a Canadian independent filmmaker, you're like, I may only get to make one movie in my life. So I kind of just put in everything I love about movies in general, you know, obviously heavily influenced by things like Sam Raimi's films and Evil Dead and all that. But I also grew up loving Teen Wolf and RoboCop. So it was a very obvious organic smashing together of like where I'm from, which is Saskatchewan, and the life and the people there, and then also just like larger than life superheroes, and then a little bit of weird sex and ultra violence. So it's all of that together. Yeah.
And you said they were both like 5 years of your life, and I know the first movie ends with, you know, Wolfcop 2 coming in, you know, 2015. Did you know then like you were going to make it, or was that hopeful thinking, or?
I didn't know anything. I mean, the producers were like pretty adamant about doing a sequel, which of course, who wouldn't want to do that? So their enthusiasm to do a sequel obviously made me very excited, and it took a little bit longer than I expected to get the second one off the ground. But no, like I feel like their belief that the idea was good and people would respond to the film made me excited, and I was happy to do one, but like, we did pitch it as like a franchise. We did think there was more, but I guess naively didn't think there would be more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice to always think that, but at the same time, you want to stay like, you know, grounded in case it doesn't go somewhere.
You don't want to be disappointed just in case.
Yeah, you get enough disappointment working in film in general.
I bet that's true.
Yeah. So what was right about Leo for Wolfcop? Because I mean, it's hard to think of someone else as Wolfcop. He looks like a wolf, actually.
That's exactly it. He is Wolfcop. I mean, honestly, I've told the story before, but I did a music video a few years before called Henry for a band called Rah Rah out of Saskatchewan. And the idea I had, it was like a very no budget music video, but they're like, what would you do? And I pitched a werewolf trying to pick up a woman at a bar. And they were like, sure, let's go with that. And Emerson Ziffel, the effects artist, he was going to make someone into a werewolf. And I forget why we went with Leo, but he was so good at the makeup effects. Like, it's a really hard thing to do. I don't know if you've ever like dabbled in it yourself, but I've been his guinea pig a couple times, and it's horrible. It's not fun. It's painful. You're finding bits of things in your ears like the next day. But something about Leo, not only was he cool with Emerson working on him for hours at a time, he was so intense when he was the werewolf. He like caused a little bit of property damage, and no, because it was just so awesome to watch him like run around smashing things. So I think in the moment of making that music video, I was like, my brain was already like, oh man, I need more of this guy like this.
Yeah. Had he done it? Was that the first time he did a lot of makeup?
I don't know, honestly. I think so, but I don't know for sure. Yeah.
Was it the same makeup guy who worked on Wolfcop?
Oh yeah. Emerson Ziffel is like the effects artist I've worked with on pretty much everything since I've been doing short films, and I would be hesitant to do anything without him.
How close was the werewolf and the music video to what Wolfcop looked like?
Really different, actually. Like that was one of the cool things because the music video was almost like free research and discovery for what worked and what didn't. And he looked way more like a very mature teen wolf. You know, it was like that kind of like long, shaggy mane. And that's what I wanted at the time because, again, I love Teen Wolf. But after doing that and then seeing Leo's personality in the makeup and then, you know, talking about some other ideas and what the movie would be versus the video, it just became a whole other thing. And, you know, obviously still in the idea of the werewolf world, but Emerson had a lot he wanted to bring to the table and influences he wanted to work on. So yeah, it was like a long, weirdly long process with a few extra examples of Leo having to do it. And, but we got there.
Craig Lindbergh, makeup artist in the chat, he wants to know if the design of the wolf was based on any other werewolves.
I don't think specifically, not for me. Emerson would have to speak to if there were film examples that he referenced. I know we both liked a lot about the look of the Benicio del Toro Universal Wolfman. So there was parts of that. But no, for me, like there was no one specific werewolf in film. I knew I wanted the energy of Teen Wolf and the old Universal Wolfman, but no, at the time there wasn't a lot of really good men in suit werewolves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it seems honestly in the last few years that's something that's come back is you know, practical effects monster movies.
Yes, yeah, thankfully. It's so good, you know, like I love VFX and I think they can do so much, but at the lower budget level where I usually live, I would so much rather have a basis of practical effects and then kind of like enhance it a little.
Yeah. I always think like even like kind of bad practical effects has like a charm to it where bad CGI is just bad and not even not fun for me. I know some people like that kind of stuff. But
I'm glad you say that because there's for sure things in you know, all the films I've done that I cringe a little when there's like a little thing that's not perfect, but I feel the same way. I'm like, even when practical effects are a little off, it's kind of charming, you know?
yeah. We'll go back to Wolfcop, but are there any monster movies that are that in that kind of vein that might not be the greatest, but that you really like?
I mean, to me, they're all kind of great. It's hard to like pick and choose in terms of like effects being bad, but like I think of
I think if
things
you like the movie, you really overlook all that anyway, and it's just kind of all part
yeah,
of it.
it's like the effects in Beetlejuice, the weird claymation stuff, or
Right,
like
right.
Tremors, or things like that. Or the original Gremlins. There are those shots where you're like, okay, you're pushing the boundaries of what you can do, but that's why it's great. I think it's when you just do what you're capable of. I think it gets boring. I would rather watch a movie where they're like, we don't know if this shot will work, and if it doesn't, they'll just make it really quick.
Yeah. And I'm always a fan when stop motion pops up because it's kind of like you know, it's definitely a thing in the past. So it's really out of place, but it's very fun for me.
I agree. I love
Like
stuff.
in Basket Case, it's completely different than Belial and the rest of the movie, but he's like claymation for a little bit. It's odd.
I agree. Totally agree.
Since you mentioned, you know, Canada, the second I watched a movie I've seen before, but I watched them again for the interview. And when Gitch comes up several times, I was like, I don't know what this word is. So I went and looked it up. And do you get that question a lot, or is that something that you knew other people might not know what it means?
No, I had no clue. I am from Canada, so I assume everyone knows a Gitch. And when people talked about it after, like, what is that? That just became another fun thing that we're like, oh, okay. I guess this is a thing we take for granted that people would call it Gitch or Gitchies. Yeah.
Yeah, I assumed like from the movie it must have been underwear, but I was like, I have no idea what this actually means. And
That's
then the
funny because
second
we
one
really went
kind of showed a
overboard.
little bit.
Yeah, in the sequel we went a little bit maybe overboard with explaining it and showing it, and but that's what you do in a sequel, right?
Right. So Aidan as the chief is perfect. And I don't want to say he's like a chief from a real movie because Wolfcop's a real movie, but like from like a real dramatic film, which really makes him perfect for the movie.
I agree. Aidan Devine is an awesome actor, and I feel like we cast him late in the game. Like it was like Wolfcop 1 happened really fast, so there were people being cast literally like the day we were beginning shooting, and so we didn't have a ton of prep time. But he had done some other films, and I think he was in another film in Saskatchewan earlier, and I remembered seeing him and thinking this guy's legit, and obviously he's in like other films, so I knew he'd be good, but the weird thing with Wolfcop is so many different actors from different backgrounds trying to make them all fit in this weird tone of like kind of absurd but also kind of serious, and guys like Aidan just legitimized it.
Yeah, and he plays it, totally deadpan and serious, which is for me even funnier.
I agree.
So you said you did some music videos. Is that how the bands who did the different music involved in Wolfcop?
No, the band actually, like, one of the coolest discoveries was the band Shooting Guns, which is actually a Saskatoon band. And so they're from Saskatchewan, and they weren't on my radar, but Jay Jolly, the executive producer of Wolfcop, it was really important for him to like keep the first film feeling very Saskatchewan in the people that worked on it. So um, I don't know if it was while we were shooting or after, but he was like researching and listening to music, and he's a big music guy, and he pulled in Shooting Guns, and the second, we kind of put it against picture, we're like, wow, this feels really perfect. I really wanted like a synthy 80s vibe. So I was a little hesitant at first because there's such like heavy doom rock, and but they also weaved in synth, which made them all the more powerful, I thought. And I don't know, I just think I couldn't imagine doing Wolfcop without them at this point.
Did they also do the closing rap in the credits, or is that someone different?
That's someone different. That's actually another Saskatoon artist. It's a rapper named Factor, and he's good friends with Hugh Patterson, one of the producers, and that was one of Hugh's big contributions and pushes for the first film. Was I don't know if it was early in production, but I jokingly said like every good movie ends with a rap song, and I didn't think anything about it because then we went and made the movie and we were exhausted, and then one day I just remember he was like, I have a present for you. And they like pressed play on his computer, and I was like, Jesus, you got this made? Like at first I thought it was like not for our movie until they started saying the lyrics. I was like,
yeah. That's pretty good. I assume that can you get the soundtrack? Do you have that separately?
There's a vinyl of both.
Oh,
films.
Really?
Yeah, amazing looking vinyls. But no, you can get them. They're for sure out somewhere. I know that they're probably on iTunes or somewhere else. But yeah, I love those soundtracks. There's both of them, and there's the Shooting Guns, the instrumental, and then there's obviously like the rap song from the first one. Jingle Punks did a really fun song from the second one that plays in the hockey rink. And then of course there's like Gowan, who does like a lot of music for both films. So like it's one of the coolest parts I think of these movies is the music.
Yeah. Was that a real bar that you shoot in the movie in? Or parts
really
of the movie?
what?
A real bar?
Yeah, actually, that's so that bar is a bar in Regina, and it's not called the Tooth and Nail, but it exists and it's real. And I don't know what it's called now because it changes names, but and that's actually the bar where we shot that first music video with Leo as the werewolf. So it was important to me that we could get that bar in the first film, and yeah, love it.
Did you know like the people who owned it at the time, or?
Yeah, and thankfully we hadn't burned any bridges, or because sometimes when you shoot in a location,
Right.
you get long or something.
Leo didn't destroy too much property.
Exactly. I think all he broke was like a coat hanger or something. Yeah, I forget.
I love when he first turns into a werewolf and he starts to shave. Even before it starts to grow back, he clearly is not shaving anything, which I think is very funny.
Mm-hmm.
He's like shaving over the like his 5 o'clock shadow. And
the problem with shooting out of continuity, like I would have loved to shave him, but I think it was like he had to be fully shaved 5 minutes later. So it's like, this is what it is, And I guess it would work in the story anyway. So yeah.
Exactly. And then you even have the sound that he's shaving, and then it's just not doing anything, which to me is just funny.
Yeah.
Casual cosplay GQ in the chat. This comes up a lot on our Facebook too. Is Lowell writing just one more Wolfcop yet? It deserves a trilogy.
Just one more Wolfcop. That's a good name. Yeah, no, I love that people are talking about a third one. I feel like they say it a lot to me. And what's crazy to me is like, I thought it would die down, and it hasn't been. I don't know if that's because people are seeing it on Shudder or Amazon or what, but no, I mean, I'm not writing another one right now, but I have like a very kind of clear idea of what I would do for a third one. So I'm definitely not against it. I'd love to do another one. Enough time maybe has passed that the pain of the other ones has subsided enough, like childbirth. I imagine, I wouldn't know. But no, I don't know.
You've forgotten enough about it now that you could go back.
It's just the pleasant memories remain.
Yeah, I mean, just the way, honestly, the way that people react is what would make me want to do another one. Because it's one thing to do a movie. You kind of, honestly, if I'm being honest, you do it selfishly for yourself. You're like, I want to do this thing and I have this idea and it'd be really fun. But then when people react to it and take ownership of it, that's when you're like, man, as a fan, I almost want to know what would happen too. So I'm not against it. I think the only thing for me would be like, they were really hard. And like, I think you have to do it better and slightly bigger. And it has to be, maybe if it's a third one, closure. So those things would have to be taken into account. But like, and it doesn't hurt when you love the actors, right? I love them all.
When you're talking, the reaction from it, when did you know that Wolfcop was something like that, had a following and people were into it?
That's a tough question. I mean, people said they liked it early on and I was like, well, okay, fine. But I think because it was so stupid and silly in origin, I was like, they're just maybe feeling sorry for us because we're a little indie Canadian movie. But I think I feel like I went to a fan expo in Florida and like a Comic-Con in North Carolina. And they were both kind of in the same like 2-month or 3-month window. And I remember being like shocked that not only did people know it in the States, but there was like people who wanted me to sign Blu-rays and DVDs. And I was like, gee, this is like, I'm not in Saskatchewan and people know about this. So I think moments like that, or when someone gets a tattoo, is when I'm like, okay, this is bigger than Regina.
Yeah. And for independent movie, because you said, it goes on, now it's on Amazon and different streaming sites. Does that take a while, to get the word of mouth out? Because it's not like a big theatrical release, like, Hollywood movie. People watch it on demand, DVD, Blu-ray. So it takes a little while, before everyone really sees it.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess it's like, it just has to kind of grow organically, but I'm shocked that people still talk about it. Like, I'm not kidding. Like you expect the shelf life of a movie to be like 1 or 2 years. And believe me, I've done things where people don't even know they exist. Like frankly, one of my big disappointments of the sequel is not many, like people keep asking us to do a sequel. And they're like, you should do a sequel. And like, we did. So I don't know if the second one got out there as much, but I'm equally as proud of that one. Yeah.
It played up in Boston, I remember, but I have we have a few like theaters that would play kind of either art house movies or independent film.
Mm-hmm. This is a very big art house film, obviously.
What?
And I was saying, I love that it plays in an art house film. Yeah.
Well, I meant, they play that as well. Weird.
Indeed.
Stellar Steven, is Wolfcop the only monster first responder?
That's a good question. In my mind, for sure he wouldn't be, like you'd have to work in all the other classic monsters in some form. I don't know who's an EMT and, who's going to be, sure, yes.
Yeah. Mummy would be very slow.
Yeah. He'd be wrapped up in so much red tape or something, maybe, literally.
Right.
Yeah.
What was filming the initial transformation scene like?
Really fun and really weird, obviously. Obviously, because it's a penis, right? And there was like multiple peni, I guess you'd say. But it was a weird day. I remember Emerson rolled in with like a little cart, and on the cart he had multiple penises, and the props guys had like different ways of like, this one could pee and this one could pee blood, and this was the wolf one and this was the human one that you could burst through. So it was literally like Emerson had to wear one penis and they had to hold up another one and he had to punch through it. So it was like, it's the kind of thing where like you definitely on a day like that, you're like, this is the weirdest thing I probably will ever do in my life.
Yeah.
I hope not, but it felt
yeah. Now I'm thinking, did he make these specifically for the movie, or did he just happen to have like, I actually have the penis that can pee blood, just in case it ever comes.
We'll have to ask him, but I want to believe that he made them for the film.
I kind of want to believe he just had them, but
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, Neil's going with the private collection. Well, in my private stash, I've
There
got
was
one
always, yeah,
bee's blood, and
there were questions about it. Yeah.
Nick Flagstar kind of on that topic. He wants to know if the exploding dick transformation was your idea in the original script, or was it something that came up later?
Yeah, no, it was always in there. It was like one of like three things that I was like, I won't, like there are Oscar-winning filmmakers who have like artistic integrity and a few key points that like I will not make the movie without this. One of my like I think three things was like a dick has to explode when he transforms, and that came out of conversations again with Emerson around like the transformation. And when we discussed how it would look and how we could make it memorable, and when it became like it's got to be a dick, from that point on, it was like I knew that it was part of the. If the movie was going to succeed, it would need that shot or that scene. Yeah.
Is their event, the drink and shoot, is that inspired by anything? Because it's
no, not really. It was just like I think that was probably like I think Jay Jolly, one of the producers, was like, you have to have like an over the top festival. I think I don't even remember if it was in the first draft, but as the drafts evolved, it was definitely like you need to have something that feels really Saskatchewan. And so we definitely did a pass or two on the script where it was just trying to like hammer in every small town cliche,
Jonathan Cherry as Willie, which I'm glad he's in both movies. Is he somebody you worked with before?
No. He was, that was the first time, and it was really hard to cast Willie. We looked at a lot of people from all over Canada, and again, going back to the tone of the film, I knew that he was kind of our Doc Brown. He was the character who could say, do anything, and if he believed it, he was like our occult expert, right? So other people would be playing the movie at like this level of like seriousness, but he needed to be like all over the map. So it was really hard to find the person who could pull that off. And yeah, when I saw Jonathan Cherry, I was like, done. Please let him be in the movie. And not only was he good, he loved to improvise. So he just killed me every day. He had so many ad libs, and a lot of the cast had great ad libs. And so, as it happened to be with what happens with his character in the first film, one of my only real conditions for doing a sequel was like, well, I can't do it without him, because to me, he's maybe the heart of the first film.
And so was he always going to be in the sequel?
Yeah, before there was even a script written, that was like, like I needed an exploding dick in the first film, I needed Jonathan Cherry back for a sequel.
Right. Very good. So two Willies in a way.
Two Willies, yes. It's all about a Willie.
Yeah. Where does the painting come from that's in Wolfcop's house or his apartment in the beginning? So really,
that's just the art department. The art department, Justin Ludwig and Adrian Triquer, they just found weird stuff and populated it everywhere. And they were, it was definitely the kind of movie where it's like you can do no wrong as long as it's 80s and weird and tacky. So most of the people on the film just ran with that, and the props department too. Everybody just was like going really hard to be as weird as possible, and I think that's partly why people respond to the movie too. It's like because of weird shots like that.
Yeah, it's kind of before the big 80s boom, nostalgia boom, kind of around this time and until now. Like there's so many 80s nostalgic.
Yeah, it's become a bit much. Like at the time I was reluctant to even say it was like, I don't even know if it's set in the 80s. Like the argument we made at the time was like, it's such a backwoods Saskatchewan town that for all we know, it is 2014 or 2015, but these people are so outdated and cut off from the rest of the world. Even if we're in the present, they still have dial-up internet, Yeah. So that was the fun of just like.
It's not really in your face, which that kind of annoys me when it's just like, here's the Rubik's Cube, here's everything from the 80s, just thrown at you. And I actually, till you said that, I didn't even think about what time period is. I know there's no cell phones in it, which to me is a positive.
Actually, there is a couple cell phones, but they're flip phones. And I remember at the time, I almost regretted that they were in there. If I could go back, maybe I would change little things like that. And someone has a digital camera at one point, but again, it was like the fun part of that first film was figuring out the rules and being like, I don't really care, but I want to feel outdated.
Hmm. You mentioned, filming the transformation scene. How about filming the sex scene in the first movie?
Really fun also. I thought it would be really awkward, but
Yeah.
it was just really fun. And I think I feel like there was a lot of apprehension. Maybe it was me or from other people about like, what's this going to be? And I do remember a few people questioning it, which made me feel good about it, because people were like, "This feels wrong. This feels like it's bestiality." And I was like, "Trust me, it's going to be romantic." And I said, "Let's just have a lot of candles on standby." And the second we started, it was just trying not to laugh, because it became so like 80s Skinamax, like slow pans and
Yeah, that's like
music swells and almost saxophone feeling, right? And mist in the air. So I knew that it was like it could go a lot of ways, and I just wanted it to be like absurd. And yeah, no, the sex scene, and then in the second one we did another sex scene, and it was again like I've never laughed probably as hard in my life as when we were shooting those scenes. I think I ruined takes because I would laugh over a moment and they'd have to cut. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. How about the sex scene in the sequel? Was it about the same to film? Or?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it was. The second one was probably funnier because the first film, everyone was still kind of like, "Will this work?" And I feel like by the second one, we kind of knew to go for it, right? So we actually even built a set for that bedroom just so they could go for it. And because I remember we were like scouting locations, and we found a house and we found a bedroom. And I remember one of the producers, Deb Marks, was like, we had no money, but she was like, she knew how important that scene was to me. And she's like, we just have to build a bedroom so that whatever happens, happens. And then we could like throw things against the wall. And it's not all in the scene, but like they had the freedom to be as aggressive as they wanted, and also we could get really cool angles that you don't really think about when you watch it maybe the first time, but we have like over the bed shots and stuff. So yeah, it was fun.
How much do you film? Because it's if people haven't seen, I don't know, they're watching, but if you haven't seen it, it's done in a montage. So how much do you actually film to cut up to make that scene?
Oh God, I don't know. I think I have a very high ratio as a director. I think I shoot a lot, but that's just, I think, because I like to experiment. So, and a scene like that would be a perfect example. I wouldn't be like, I storyboard things, but also, even though I storyboarded that whole scene for sure, I guarantee you, I said I need a whole morning to shoot this, even though we didn't have the time, just so we could do those things where, like if it's the moment that people are going to really laugh at and enjoy in a movie, you don't want to rush through in 3 shots. I want to say, I want to have 5 minutes to drip candle wax on your chest. I want to have a couple standby lamps that we can smash on standby. So yeah, I shoot a lot, but it's also because I like experimenting, I think.
So, obviously you're hoping to do a sequel when you do the first one. Did you have any idea what the sequel would be about?
No, I had ideas of what I wanted the sequel to be, and I guarantee you my first drafts are nothing like the movie that ended up happening. It changed so much over the course of a year. I think like the producers had certain things they wanted done. I had certain things I wanted done. And then the first one comes out, and there's also the audience expectation of like, well, suddenly now I'm seeing what people are reacting to. So I want to like make sure they're happy. So it became weird of like, the first one, I feel like the first Wolfcop I made just for me, but the sequel, I felt like I had like 8 masters that I was serving. So for better and for worse, it felt like a very different film to make. And good and bad. I think it probably looks better and feels bigger, but the first one was definitely more pure to me. Yeah.
Does that affect the fun of making the movie if you have a lot of people to answer to, or
Yeah, for sure. The first film, getting it off the ground, was not as fun at all, but making it was maybe more fun than the first one, because like the first film, it wasn't technically my first film, but it felt like it. So I for sure made way more mistakes in the first film. Like I felt more confident by the second one. And again, I still storyboarded and prepared everything, but I also knew the actors better, you know, like Jonathan Cherry knew what he was like, what his Willie would be like even better. He knew what people responded to. Amy Matysio was amazing as Tina. And
Yeah, I didn't bring it
even,
up.
you know, like her character got to get a little bit more freaky by the second one. And Leo, obviously, as Wolfcop, felt more comfortable in his own skin. So I think the experience of shooting the second film was probably more fun. But everything else from the first film was more fun.
Yeah. Yannick, who plays the villain in the second one's pretty great. How did he come about? Where did you find him?
So great. I think he was friends with one of our producers, Bill Marks, and we definitely were like having a hard time figuring out who our villain would be. And Bill Marks, like, really, I think he pitched like, let's use Yannick. And I only knew Yannick from Murdoch Mysteries, which is like a Canadian CBC family-friendly detective show. And I remember being like, wow, this is weird. You know, like I wasn't against it, but I was like, I don't know, like this character has to be really out there and smarmy. But I think Yannick like was excited about the idea of like kind of dirtying up his image, and he's got a lot of fans. Like we had people on social media. I remember when we cast him and who knew Wolfcop and knew Murdoch Mysteries, like someone like was tweeting at us like, you better not make Murdoch swear. And then of course, like the first thing he does when he's on camera is like drop a few F-bombs. So
Yeah.
no, I loved working with Yannick, and not just because, you know, he was playing such a fun villain, but he also got into the improv, and he's also such a like a consummate pro, which on an indie film is so important because you don't have time to screw up. You know what I mean? Like if something goes wrong, if a gag goes wrong, or if a person forgets their lines, it comes out of somewhere. You know, it's not just like, oh, let's have fun and relax. It's like indie film is like a freight train, and Yannick was always like, he had like huge chunks of dialogue, and he hit his mark every time.
You mentioned, you know, this Wolfcop's not your first feature, and 3 Eerie, I believe, is your first feature.
Yeah, 13 Eerie. It's
13.
it's a horror film too. It's a zombie film, and yeah, that was my technical first film. But I have a hard time considering it my first film because I was just like literally thrown in at the last minute. It was another director was going to make it, and they had like some funding issues fall out, and I was working on the film, but they knew I was an aspiring director. So literally 2 weeks before production, they asked me to direct it. So I was thrown in. Everyone was already cast. Locations were picked. Costumes were made. So it was more like the overseeing. And to me, when I think of directing, it's more like that's important, but that's almost more like TV directing. You know what I mean? Like I didn't shape the look and feel of everything and cast everyone, which is in the world of indie film, I think half the work.
Yeah. Plus, I noticed that you didn't write it. I don't know, how different is that to direct something that you've written as opposed to something someone else has written?
It's weird. I prefer to direct things I've written because when you write, you figure everything out. So when an actor comes to me and has a question, I've imagined every possible scenario when I've written it. You know, like it's not like I just write the first draft and whatever happens is great. I really think about everything everyone's doing. So when a character says, why the hell would I go in this room when this is happening? I know immediately. You can say like, you did this because of this and that. But when I don't write it, I have to kind of put myself in that mindset. And there have been times where an actor says, why am I doing this? And I'm like, I honestly don't know. And let's figure it out together, right?
Yeah.
So it's also really exciting. I think I'm weirdly more protective of the script when I didn't write it. When I've written it, I'm very quick to throw out words and dialogue. And if an actor says like, I don't love this line, I'm like, it's garbage, change it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Cause I would assume, like you're saying that because otherwise you'd be rewriting or reworking someone else's, work as opposed to this is my own thing. So it doesn't affect anybody but me if I change it.
And it's hard, like it is hard. You do, when you take a movie, you have to make it yours as a director. So you do often have to like tweak things, but no, I think like I love being a director for hire, but I also, if I can only do one, I want to direct things I write because it's also what I'm getting to say things I want to say about the world even in a Wolfcop film, there's going to be subtext and weird opinions about life and society and living in Saskatchewan, stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned, doing music videos. Did you do shorts or anything before doing the feature, like short films?
Yeah, I did about, I graduated from university for film in like 2002. And for about a decade after that, I only did short films just because no one would hire me. A movie is like, I often wish I had done like that $10,000 or $100,000 indie film, because that's to me where you really like make your bones as a filmmaker. But no, I just did short films. I did a lot of short films, and I experimented and played around with different genres and learned a lot. But what you learn in short films versus features is night and day. Like, features are so hard that it's like, I would compare it to like being like a marathon runner versus like a sprinter. Like when you actually get into a feature, the amount of complexities of relationships and days and problems you're juggling, like you may have a problem that you don't solve for a week, and that like that hurts my brain when I have that. I need everything solved right away. I'm like a task oriented person, so when someone's like, we'll deal with that in a week, and a week later you're like, oh god, is that still not solved? It's like big pieces of the puzzle.
What kind of shorts did you do? Were they horror or?
A little of everything. I did zombie short films. I did cop short films. I did weird Christmas short films, superhero short films. All horrible, stuff I'll never show anybody. But
that was the next one. I was asking if you could see them anywhere, but yeah.
Not really. I try to keep them off.
He's hiding them away somewhere.
I mean, I occasionally I think like I've screened a few at like short film festivals or for friends, or sometimes I think we once screened like one of them in front of Wolfcop at a local screening. But they're not like horrible. But I don't need every piece of garbage that I've done out there.
I understand. Yeah. How about that experience doing the festivals? Did that help? Maybe meet people who worked on Wolfcop?
Not really. I mean, I tried to, like in the short film times, I was still very new as a filmmaker. So it's like going to high school, right? Like I just didn't want anyone to look at me or notice me, and I hope they had the right reaction to the film. But as I've grown a little bit as a filmmaker and more so with features, like going to festivals with Wolfcop and stuff, I've tried to be a little bit more gregarious and meet people and talk about the projects and try and make friends, because I do realize more than ever, making indie films is like, it takes an army and it's all relationships. So you can only get so far unless you're being a nice person and kind of like letting people into the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a short film that played festivals and got involved in features, but for me, that's worked out well.
How did you find the festival circuit for short film?
I'm a big fan of the festival circuit, but I originally went to them as press, and then got to know people, and then the filmmakers did a short film with me. I'm the star of the short film, or whatever. I don't know how to, because it's a quote unquote documentary about me.
Oh, okay, that's fun.
Yes, it's very fun. I'll send you a link if you want to watch it. It's on.
Yeah, send it.
And then from there, I did 2 features with those filmmakers, which have not been released because it was right before everything closed down last year.
Yeah, it's a tough time, like I have so many things I'm trying to get going. And it's like, there are some days where you're just like, I guess I just watched TV today because, there's nothing that can happen. So it's really hard, definitely, to get momentum. But I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic in the last few days.
Honestly, what you said earlier about you forget about the pain, and this was much smaller budget and everything. But it produced the feature last February, and afterwards I was like, I'm never doing this again. This was terrible. But and then months go by or year goes by, it's like, wow, I would really like to make another movie. So I could see how time went by and you look at it differently.
It's such a harsh mistress, like film is like, it's so unforgiving. And even when people say this one's going to be easy, every single one is hard. So if you don't like the people you're working with, or you don't like the material, you're asking for trouble, because you are going to be tested. There's going to come that point, like a month in or 2 months in or a year in, where you're like, I want to quit this, even on the ones you like. So God, yeah, it's Why does anybody do this?
That's what my friend Michael, who I did, Michael and Sophia, he always tells me making movies is a terrible idea, but
It is,
that's what he does.
but it's a vice. I honestly compare it to a vice because like I wish I could quit film. I really do. Like I'm not lying. I would love to do something else, but I am obsessed with it.
What were the movies? I know I mentioned the movies that you said inspired Wolfcop, but what are some of the movies that inspired you to even want to become a filmmaker?
Oh, that's a good question. I think pretty early in my childhood, it would be those movies that like got me interested in like just the idea of a different reality. You know what I mean? Like of the rules of like being a human in the world, and then you watch like Superman. Christopher Reeve Superman had a huge impact on me because I was like, wait, what if I could fly? And then you like daydream all day about like not walking everywhere and how fun that would be. So I think Superman, Back to the Future, American Werewolf, Die Hard was a huge one for me. Basically, it was like increments of like different versions of heroes until they slightly became more realistic. Like Superman, and then at the end it was like John McClane, just like an exhausted guy shooting a machine gun.
Yeah. I still think the first two Superman films are the best Superman movies.
Oh, I agree completely. I think like that feels like pretty much the rule. And until someone comes along with the right tone, with the right budget, they're not going to get it. Like that, I would kill to do a Superman film. Yeah.
Yeah. Weird tie-in, talk about Superman movies because he never got to make his Superman movie, but Kevin Smith is I'm bringing this all back to Wolfcop. Has a cool, I would say cameo, but it's really more than a cameo in another Wolfcop. How did that come about? Was he just a fan of Wolfcop, or did you ask him? Or?
Well, here's the thing. He has a project in development that he's been trying to get made for a while now called Moose Jaws. I don't know if you're aware of that one. Moose Jaw, though, is actually a town in Saskatchewan. So he was scouting and he wanted to see if he could make it work in the actual town, which is where we were doing Wolfcop. And our producers got wind that he was exploring that option, and they had a conversation. And I don't know how they did it, but yeah, it was, again, talking about how chaotic these films are. We had the role of the mayor uncast while we're shooting. We're already like, we talked about ideas and cameos and who were maybe some celebrities who could be it, but the movie was happening. Like we were like 3 days away from shooting that scene, and we didn't have a mayor, and we didn't know who the mayor would be. And then I think it was Jay Jolly, like one of the producers, came up to me on set one day and said like, Kevin Smith will be the mayor and he'll be here tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, right. But then sure enough, the next day he shows up and they're like, oh, you've got him for 6 hours, and I had like 12 pages to shoot. So I'm amazed we got through it. But again, like I talked about Yannick being so prepared with dialogue. Kevin Smith, not only was he really great at memorization and like doing all the dialogue and the gags, he, of course, being a writer much better than me, was like, hey, do you want a couple tweaks here and there? And like change anything you want. So he just added a bunch of jokes and ad-libbed off the cuff stuff, and really brought it up.
GQ in the chat, what was it like to direct Kevin Smith? This little different.
Great, and I'll tell you why. I was obviously nervous. You're nervous anytime you're meeting anybody new. But he is so good that he knew the second he met me. I think the first thing he said was, you're the director, nice to meet you. I will do anything you need. I will say anything you need. How can I help you today? And that right there, like, if he could have been an asshole, he could have scared the shit out of me. He could have used whatever swagger, but him saying that right off the top made me feel so at ease. And then we just started the conversation. He's like, tell me about this guy who I'm playing. Like, what? Just tell me his personality and what you'd love to see. So we bounced ideas around for a bit while they were lighting, and then you got in there and you'd be like, well, what if I try this, or what if I try that? So yeah, no, he was like my favorite. And I think that comes out of being a director. He was my favorite kind of actor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool, because, everyone's a Kevin Smith fan. It's good to know he wasn't, a dick or anything.
No, not at all. Yeah, he was like, if we could have had him for another week, I would have been the happiest boy on the set.
And one of my favorite people has a smaller role in the movie, Adam Brooks, from the Astron 6 movies, and I was really happy to see him in another
that
Wolf
was
Cop.
great.
Yeah. Did you know him before the movie, or how did he get involved?
No, just a fan of Astron 6, you know, and Emerson Ziffel did some makeup effects on the editor, so he got to know them that way. And and then we just like we exchanged a few emails back and forth, more with Matt Kennedy, just like talking about like making indie films. And then as a joke, he's like, "Are you going to make another Wolf Cop?" And I said like, "Yeah, I think we might." And he's like, "Well, what's my role in it?" And then it was just like a joke, but at a certain point, like as we're breaking down the script, we knew there was going to be this opening scene with these henchmen. And at one point, someone said like, "Well, what are their names?" And I was like, "Oh man, there's like 3 or 4 here. I wonder if we could get all of Astron 6." So I reached out, and you know, it's the kind of role they're so much better than that role, and I wish we could have given them something more fun to chew on. But the die was cast. This was the movie, and so just getting them, you know, Connor and Matt, and yeah, just saying also to just do whatever and improvise. And again, you know, the exact same kind of attitude as Kevin Smith, where it's just like, what do you guys want to do? How do you want to do it? And we had a lot to do that day. Like it was insane. I think we shot that whole chase in a day, but we still found time to like make up weird stuff.
Yeah, Astron 6, people who haven't seen the movies, I highly recommend them. Editor's kind of there's a different Manborg I really like, and it's
I love the editor. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, editor is a Father's Day. I don't know. Either one's probably my favorite. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the same effects team in another Wolf Cop?
Yeah, bigger effects team. On the first film, it was like Emerson, and I think he had an assistant or two, and he had like a spreadsheet of what he was doing. But by the time we did the sequel, I don't know what percentage of our budget went to makeup effects, but it was insane. Like they had a whole wall that was like line items of every character and every effect and every gag. And I don't think we go a scene in that movie without some kind of gag.
Yeah, I like the addition of aliens in the sequel. You already have, you know, werewolves and shapeshifters, so you bring in aliens.
Yeah, well, you know, every time you do it, you got to add a little layer.
Yeah, and I also like that you get a lot of use out of the face skin. It makes it's a couple times in the first movie, then when it pops up in the second movie.
Yeah, I love people ripping their own face off. I don't know why. It's just so fun to look at. So
yeah.
I can't have it.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah, I like people pulling their own skin off too. It's like, you know, I'd love to see in movies, just in cinema.
Yeah.
Or in real life, it's okay.
This is being recorded, right? So
right, we don't know who's watching this, but that always freaked me out in Poltergeist, the scene where he's washing his face and ripping it off.
I know, that's stuck with me to this day.
Yeah, and not to be like a tough guy or nothing, but I watch horror movies my whole life, so not too many things like really got to me, but that's actually one thing that did.
Yeah, me too.
That and toys for some reason. Anything with like little monster toys or something. I think because I had a lot of action figures.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Most people are asking about a third Wolf Cop, but how was the second Wolf Cop? How was that? How did the fans of the first one take to the second one?
I think well. Again, like I said, like I feel like we worked so hard to make the second one fun and you know, really please everybody and all the people of the first film. That it's just like it's a really crazy romp. But again, I don't think, you know, I don't know what happened with like we didn't have any marketing budget whatsoever, so that was hard. But the distribution just didn't go anywhere. Like people, like I said, it's crazy to this day. People ask me, "Are you going to make another like a sequel to Wolf Cop?" And I was like, "There is one out there," you know. So for whatever reason, yeah, people haven't really been finding it. They are now, I think, but it's not as easily accessible as the first film. You know, everybody knows the first one exists. So, but that said, I think the people who have seen the second one, I think they mostly like it. You know, maybe some people think it's too dumb. It certainly gets dumb and weird, but I mean, the first film was really building to it, you know, and we've done a few double feature screenings, and I think it plays really well because it's like well, first off, they're really short movies, and together they're barely the length of like,
I'm glad you actually said that, because I going to the film festivals and stuff. I think this kind of movie, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I like these kind of movies. They're better when they're about 80 minutes. They don't need to be.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. We don't have like, we know what we are. We know we're like not a huge budget movie. So when you're doing a low budget movie, get in and get out. You know what I mean? Like, especially a movie like this. Like, this isn't like a heavy, dark drama that needs to explore the psyche of this, that, and the other thing. Like, this is like a fun roller coaster, ridiculous, gory superhero movie. So when you're doing that, we don't have the budget for a third act Marvel film where everybody fights everybody. So let's just do what we can and cut out the crap, right? So
Yeah, no, I agree. It works, because I've seen a lot of movies I really like, but they go on too long, and you just don't like them as well.
yeah, no, I wish they were longer, but we just didn't have the time or the budget to make them longer.
Tai Chi. Oh, I know Tai Chiman, who I actually know him from Buffalo Underground, Buffalo Fantastic Film Festival. It's a very long name, but he's an independent filmmaker. He wants to know. I remember seeing the ad for this on the Toronto Fan Expo 2013 booklet. What was the pitch meeting like for Wolfcop?
There was more than a meeting. We actually entered a contest. There's a thing called the Syndicate Accelerator in Canada, and they were putting on a cross Canada, contest where anybody could enter their trailer and their script, and people would vote on it online, and then you'd have to go and like pitch it to executives at like this television festival. And so we had to like work for 3 months, myself and our team, to try and get people to vote for our film. And the reason we really wanted to get in is because they promised us a Canadian theatrical release. So that's why we really wanted to partner with them. Like, we were pretty committed to making the movie, even if it was like 50 grand and just a bunch of us in a basement. But we knew this would be a better shot. So we kind of went all in on it and killed ourselves to get it out there. And luckily we were selected, and it played well. And from that point on, but it was like 3 months of pitching and saying like, make this movie. This is the movie. And being a Canadian kind of competition, we didn't think we'd get chosen, because Canada, it makes Cronenberg style movies and weird stuff too, but I don't think your first thought when you think of Canada is like absurd. Canadian cinema is absurd stuff like Wolfcop.
Mm-hmm. So what have you been working on this last year? It's a weird year for everybody.
It's the worst year ever. I'm writing a lot. I'm thinking about TV a lot more now. So I've got like a couple TV projects that I'm in the brainstorming / trying to pitch phase, where I've got pilot scripts ready and lookbooks, and I'm pitching them, and it's all in the kind of genre weird space, right? So I've got a little bit of traction on a couple of those. I've also written a couple horror films, and I'm working on a comic book too. I'm doing a comic book about like a bunch of weird superheroes. This character on my chest is one of them. Is a character named Cowboy. He later grows up to be like a Batman style character, but he's a cow. Yeah. Lots of weird stuff like that, and just dying for this pandemic to open up so I can actually get out there and make these films.
Mm-hmm. I got my first vaccine yesterday, so hopefully,
you lucky so-and-so. Yeah, I'm very eager to get it, so I can start talking to people again. So I think next week. Any side effects? How you feeling?
I felt totally fine. Great. I got sleepy last night, but it could have just been because I got up early.
I get my second shot tomorrow, and my first one was fine and dandy too.
Amazing.
Yeah, our mom got both of hers, and she felt fine too. Her arm was sore for a day or so, but besides that, no anything.
Yeah, it was worse for me with the flu shot, actually. I was more sore and stiff.
Well, good. That's awesome, you guys. Like, Canada's a little slower, a little on the rollout. So I'm excited to get it.
It'll be worth the wait, though.
Good. Yeah. Can't wait.
And I just want to mention real quick, when you said about TV, that's come up a couple times with independent filmmakers. I know they suggested television series because they said of the rise of the streaming sites that they need so much content that that series is the way to go for a lot of things.
I mean, also it's like at a certain point, like even when we did Wolfcop and another Wolfcop, and I knew that I got to go from one film to another, it's still such a slog making independent film. You know what I mean? Like it's at a certain point you realize I'm putting myself out of work every 6 months. You know, even if you do good, like usually most people get a job, and if they do good, they have career advancement. But like an indie film, there's no rules. You know what I mean? Like even if you do a good movie, things could ebb and flow, and people could not want your next project, and then suddenly you go 6 months without a job. So it's you're still, it doesn't pay that great to be an independent filmmaker.
Where can people follow you or Wolfcop, online to see what you're up to?
Pretty easy to find on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. I'm Lolo Film, LOLOFILM is my handle. It's kind of my company since I was like 12 years old. And Wolfcop is equally easy to find. Just look for Wolfcop the movie pretty much anywhere, and I'm sure it'll pop up.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to see what you work on next.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Neil. This was really fun to chat for a bit. Human interaction.
You kind of forgot what that's like.
We were just an audio show for years, but then last year during the pandemic, I didn't even know what Zoom was, and then we started doing this one.
Me too. Like I did a lot of Zooms when this started, and then I was kind of like, okay, I think I'm ready to take a break from humans. But a few Zooms, every month is nice.
Cool. Yeah, this has been great. It was really fun. It'd be cool to do it sometime.
Yeah, we wish you all the best. Good luck with everything.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
One last question. Do you have a Dark Stars hockey jersey?
I don't. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
I never think to collect those awesome things. The only thing I have from Wolfcop is I have the occult book from the first film. When they made that, like Jay Robertson, the props master, put that together, and I was like, I'm keeping this book. And I have little things like obviously a poster and an action figure, I have a jersey.
I've been trying to figure out what that was up there, but now I see.
I'll show you.
Now Neil's got envy now on the action figure.
Oh, that's awesome, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Anderson Ziffel designed it and from scratch, and he's got bourbon and beer and a gun. Yeah, so I made sure obviously to keep one of those. I needed to have at least one of those.
Yeah. All right, very good. What kind of beer? Does he have the chicken milk beer, or is he got?
No, this is from the first film. He would if it was the sequel, but he has Brask, which is a made-up brand by Justin Ludwig, the art director.
All right, very cool. All right, well, we'll talk to you again sometime. This has been great.
Yeah, thanks for everything.
Yeah,
thanks guys. Enjoy the werewolf conversations.
Will do.
Yeah, take it easy. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, so we'll be back next week, Troy.
All right, we will see everyone then.
With D. Wallace.
Nice.
And the treacherous Trista will be returning, I believe, next week.
Hoorah. We miss her some, Trista.
Yes. So until next week, this is Nasty Neil.
This is Terrible Troy.
And this is Without
Your
Head.